Thanks, Minister, or thanks, Chair. Minister, can you explain appropriations in aid? There's huge variance in that. That's something to do with the EU. Can you explain that to me?
So the appropriations in aid, Deputy Fitzmaurice, is the receipts that we would get in from the European Union in response to the direct payments and grants that we would pay out, and we would recoup then from the European Commission.
So they owe us that difference, do they?
Yeah, so it's
going to come this year, next year?
It's going to come now in the first quarter of next year rather than the last quarter this year. And the appropriations in aid that that refers to is the ANC, the payment of the ANC money for money that we'd have paid out, and also some payment under the European Maritime and Fisheries Fund as well. It makes no difference. It's an accounting piece. It makes no difference to our budget this year in real terms, or makes no budget to our or no difference to our budget next year in real terms either. It's simply it's accounted for within the national.
Right. That's perfect. In relation to, I concur with our chair. In relation to the TB, it looks a huge increase in funding, and I know the farmers have to get money, but some of the proposals at the moment that's on the table about basically areas, either you're clear with the test or you're not. It's the bottom line, rather than putting sort of areas together of sort of danger, like to destroy farms, and I think whoever was the genius to come up with that needs to think again. In relation to agri-environment schemes, I'm looking at agri-environment schemes, there's about 26 or 27 million, am I right, of an underspend. And also, if you go down, there's one agri-environmental schemes, and then we have acres, I see, there's another 14 million of an underspend. Is that correct? And on top of that, carbon tax measures, just transition fund, can you give me it's 13.65 and the 7 million of a differ there of an underspend. What's that about?
Okay, thanks, Deputy Fitzmaurice. So first of all, in relation to the agri-environmental schemes, there's change there from 160 million to 133 million. So this is relating to demand-led funding, particularly in relation to soil sampling scheme, and also the TAMS URI scheme, which is a lot of it around the solar, solar, which we will be announcing in the next very short next week or two, but which more of the funding will be next year than this year. So that's part of it. Also within that as well, we've done some reprofiling, allocating extra money, 4 million to organics from this line as well, and also an extra 6.5 million to the Strong Corporation scheme to try and, on top of the 10 million we'd already allocated to that, to reflect the support that farmers need, given a very, very difficult harvest and growing season too. Then in relation to acres, so we had profiled 160 million. We're expecting that'll spend 146. That's in relation to, we'd obviously given some extensions in relation to results, scorecards, which were necessary to facilitate all of the 46,000 which we had.
Does that give you more money for reps or for acres too? So,
well, we've profiled 200 million euro in the budget next year for acres. So it means we're reprofiling that this year into other things now for this year, because we have to spend that in this current year's budget. Obviously, we have to manage the acres budget is one we're going to have to manage year to year in terms of the amount that's being paid out, etc. And then in the carbon tax measures and the Just Transition Fund, so there had been 13.5 million allocated for that. We're bringing that now to 6.5 million. That relates to, firstly, there was 10 million which was provided from the Department of Energy and Communications for the bioeconomy demonstration initiative in this year's budget, and was transferred to the department, my own department. This allocation was in line with the overall budget for the bioeconomy demonstration initiative. It wasn't in line with what we had said was our expected spending plan, so we need to adjust in relation to that.
My understanding for acres, we were hearing that the carbon tax was going to be, a lot of the carbon tax was going to be sent across to the acre scheme. Did that happen?
That's profiled. The carbon tax is increasing year on year over the next while, and it's profiled into our overall allocation for acres. I'm not sure any of the carbon tax actually. is
Yeah,
in the
but
number
what's
this
the
year, is
figure
it?
we're getting out of carbon tax for acres? That's what I'd like to know.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, all the current capital, all the current carbon tax we have is going towards acres this year.
What's that? Explain how much
How much
it
is that?
It's 100 and, we'll confirm the figures and come back to you, Deputy
Okay,
on it.
all right.
Yeah.
There was another figure there that stood out to me. Was development, there was development and promotion of agriculture. That's a worrying to see that we have spent about half our budget or less than half our budget. Is that for promotion of our foods in different countries, or what is it?
What is that?
It's the EI capital investment scheme.
Oh, yeah, so that's the Enterprise Ireland Capital Investment Scheme in the processing sector. So we had allocated for this year expected spend of just over 30 million, but it's demand led in terms of the applicants for it. So it's not going to fully spend, but obviously we had allocated that as an opportunity. Some of it may carry over into next year, but it's demand led, and it's bar funding going to the processing sector administered by Enterprise Ireland.
Right. Why would there be such an underspend on receipts for inspection fees at meat plants?
Which number are we talking about there?
Table
E3.
7,
E3.
E3.
Okay.
And actually E13 as well, if you can, and E20.
Okay, so yeah, it was a typo, an administrative error whenever it was first done, so it's correcting that.
What's
It was
it?
an administrative error. So basically, the estimate was 25 million.
Yeah.
But that was an error at that stage. It shouldn't have been that. It should have been 17 million then. So we're correcting that now in the supplementary estimate. It was a typographical error at that point. E3 on page 12.
Table 7.
Receipts from inspection fees and meat plants. So it was an error when it was presented.
That's virtually level, so.
So there's no change there. It's
Okay.
what was expected, but there was an error in the figure when it would have been presented.
And what's the story with the two below it, E13 and E20? There looks to be a hurry.
E13 is receipts from the European Commission, which will not be received in 2023, which we had been expecting. So that's what I'd refer to in terms of a lot of the appropriations and aid. And the E13 there is the ANC money.
Right.
So, and then the E20 is the fisheries money, which were simply the appropriations and aid, which is going to come in now next year instead of this year. So that's what that is.
Okay. That's lovely.
So
Thanks
it
very
makes
much.
no difference to our budget this year or next year. It's dealt with as a separate category by the Department of Public Expenditure in relation to how they account.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you all.